Hi everyone, it's iTalkApple. Specifically to my new viewers, I am iTalkApple. My name's actually Amanda, but I go by iTalkApple on everything, and I think this is the first time I've ever said my name in my videos. Anyway, I'm iTalkApple. I'm 19 years old. I make videos about technology because I love doing it, and I haven't made a video recently because I'm in college, and that takes up a lot of time. Anyway, thanks so much for subscribing to my channel, even though I haven't made a video recently. And I hope to make a video in January about, well, who I am and what this channel is about, because I've been making videos since 2008, and I think my purpose here has changed a little bit since I started making videos. So I want to clarify. Anyway, until then, enjoy this video. So today I want to talk about storage space, specifically how much storage space do you actually need on your devices. I want to limit the discussion today to iOS devices just because I'm going to address things specific to them. It's just simpler that way. But if you want a video about how much storage space you need when you're buying a Mac, let me know in the comments because I have actually outlined a video about that as well. So if you want to see it, I will make it. Anyway, iOS devices. This includes the iPad, the iPhone, and I guess the iPod Touch as well, but really I'm going to be specifically discussing the iPad and the iPhone. So the iPad and the iPhone come in a few different configurations. They come in 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes, and the iPad also comes in 128 gigabytes. So when deciding how much storage you actually need on an iOS device, you need to ask yourself, what am I using this device for? What is its purpose? What kind of media am I going to be putting on the device? How am I consuming that media? What kinds of apps am I going to use? How many apps am I going to have? All of these questions are essential when it comes to deciding, am I going to spend $100 extra for a 32 gigabyte iPhone as opposed to just a 16 gigabyte iPhone? So I'll start the discussion by talking about media. That's music, movies, photos, stuff like that. Let's start with music because depending on who you are, music can take up a huge amount of space on, say, your iPhone, or it can take up hardly any space at all. To figure out how much space your iTunes library takes up, open up iTunes, go to the menu bar, which should be at the top of your screen, click View, and then go to Show Status Bar. Then at the bottom of the window, it should show like how many songs you have in your library and how many gigabytes of space those songs take up. And depending on how many gigabytes of space your iTunes library is, that should help you decide what capacity iPhone to get, for example. And another factor is, are you the kind of person who wants to have their entire music library like on their phone with them all the time, or do you not care that much? So if you already have an iPod, it's not essential to have all 2,000 of your songs on your iPhone. I mean, if you have enough space for that and you can afford doing that, then go ahead and do that, especially if you want to. But it's definitely not essential. I basically use my iPhone as an iPod, so I like having my entire iTunes library on there. Although, even I'll admit that with 1,000 songs, even though that's not that many compared to so many people out there, I don't listen to all 1,000 of those songs regularly. I could easily create a playlist or selectively sync my favorite artists on the iPhone and be satisfied. With the iPad, the same sort of thing applies. I doubt the iPad's going to be your primary portable music device, so you don't necessarily need to have your whole iTunes library on your iPad. Now for photos. Photos is an interesting one, especially for people looking to buy an iPhone, because the iPhone is becoming an increasingly popular camera. I use my iPhone to take most of the pictures that I ever take. I have a DSLR, but of course that's not something that I'm carrying around with me every day. The iPhone is. And then there's great photo editing apps and photo sharing apps like Instagram, and I don't know, it encourages you to take a lot of pictures. So the thing is, you shouldn't run out of space on your iPhone because you have thousands of pictures. A good idea is to transfer your pictures regularly from your iPhone to your computer or to a cloud storage service because, well, it's a good idea to back the photos up, and I don't think an iPhone is an appropriate place to permanently store your pictures. It's just, I don't know, you could lose it easily, you could break it, you can lose all of the pictures. It's just not a good idea. However, that being said, I have about 4,000 pictures on my iPhone right now, and they take up over 9 gigabytes of space. So I have a 32 gigabyte iPhone, and it's okay for me to do that right now, but I'm definitely gonna put most of them on my computer. Actually, I'm probably gonna do that when I'm done recording this video because I don't need to have 4,000 pictures on my iPhone. I recommend choosing maybe your favorite albums from iPhoto and syncing those to your phone. Or after taking a lot of pictures using your iPhone, I mean, it's okay to keep them there for a while, but then you can transfer them to your computer. The iPad's a little bit of a different story because it's a lot more common for people to use the iPad as more of a laptop replacement. People are going to use that to edit pictures. If you're more of a photographer type and you like to keep multiple versions of photos that you edit on your iPad and do lots of photo editing work and just keep a large library of pictures on there, definitely go for at least the 32 gigabyte version. 64 gigabytes might be safer depending on how many thousands of pictures you're going to be keeping on your device. And now for video. Well, there's different types of video. There's the video that you shoot on your iPhone, say a minute or two, like a clip that you shoot, just, you know, to remember some cool thing that happened. Those, again, aren't going to be the kinds of things that you're going to permanently keep on your phone. I recommend transferring those to your computer at some point. But then there's the kinds of video like TV shows and movies. Those kinds of things, they take up a lot more space. Obviously, a minute of a video clip takes up more space than a photo, but then a full-length feature film is going to be about 2 gigabytes of storage space that you're using up. For the iPhone, I feel like it's rare to actually keep more than one movie on your phone. It's just not the ideal device to watch movies on. However, if you have an iPad, it's a lot more common for people to use their iPad as an entertainment, like a media entertainment hub. People who travel are going to put videos on their iPad to watch on the airplane, and that's going to take up space. So I'd say go for 32 gigabytes for the iPad. But then again, if you're just renting those videos, that means that they're only temporarily going to be on your iPad. You could probably get away with having a 16 gigabyte iPad and renting a couple videos to watch on an airplane, then deleting those videos, and then you get, you know, your 4 gigabytes of space back or whatever. Some people have extensive movie collections in their iTunes libraries and feel more comfortable having a lot of movies on their iPads. That's okay. Then I would say 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes. However, again, if you have, say, 10 movies in your iTunes library, I don't think that you necessarily need to have all 10 of those movies on your iPad at once. It might be a good idea to say, oh, I'm going to pick 4 of these movies to put on my iPad for this trip that I'm going on, to watch those, and then I'll delete them from the iPad, and they're permanently going to be stored on my computer, and I'll put them on my iPad when I need them. Another thing to consider is that streaming video is really popular. If you have a Netflix account, then you can easily stream a movie as long as you have a decent Wi-Fi connection, and that's not going to take up as much space as, well, having a movie on your iPad. And finally, let's discuss apps. The App Store has a huge variety of apps to download, and before purchasing an iPad or an iPhone, you're going to have to consider, again, you know, what are you using the device for, how many apps are you going to have? Because apps themselves don't take up a lot of space. They range from, say, 50 megabytes to about 500 megabytes depending on the type of app you're downloading. And if you already do own an iOS device, I'm going to show you right now how you can figure out how much space each app takes up. So go to the Settings app and then go to General and then tap on Usage. And then the very first thing that should come up, it should say Storage, how many gigabytes you have available, and how many gigabytes you have used. And then it might take a while to load depending on how many apps you have, but it will actually show how much space each app takes up. So for example, Candy Crush takes up 75.6 megabytes, Dropbox is 197 megabytes, Twitter is 527 megabytes, YouTube is 62.8 megabytes, Snapchat is 28.9 megabytes. So most of the apps that I have are under 100 megabytes. A few of them are over 500 megabytes. And to give you perspective, in case you didn't know, 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. So think about what type of iOS user you are. There's a lot of people who use an iPad primarily for reading, browsing the web, keeping up with social media, looking at a few pictures, maybe streaming video. For that kind of user, 16 gigabytes is fine. If you want a little more flexibility, then 32 gigabytes is probably ideal, but 16 gigabytes should work okay. If you like using your iPad as your multimedia hub and you want to have like lots of videos available to watch anytime you want to keep your iTunes library on there, 64 gigabytes is better, especially if you want room for lots of games and apps and all that stuff. In general, I think 32 gigabytes is like the best option for everybody, no matter what kind of user you are. I think it's a flexible option. And I have an iPad and an iPhone. They're both 32 gigabyte versions, and I've had no problem with that. In the past, I did have a 64 gigabyte iPad too, and I did not need that much storage. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully this video helped you out and it wasn't too long or rambly. If you have any questions, it doesn't have to be tech related, leave me a comment because I want to do a Q&A video eventually, and I want to mix it up with the kind of questions that I get asked. So yeah, leave a comment with a question. If you like this video, then like the video, like hit the like button and subscribe, and maybe tweet out the link because I don't know if this video is going to show up in people's subscriptions feeds. Yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks again for watching and have a nice day wherever you are.